Shout Factory TV, changing the channel.
About it. You can't sleep. Well, stay up with me, and I'll figure out some way to keep you occupied.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
It's a dream.
It's only a dream.
No, it's not.
How about that? How many people here own a Scream Factory title? Couple? Come on, I think we gotta have a little more than that. Come on. Come on. Let's get excited here. Hey, I'm Sean Clark from Horror Hound Magazine and Horror's Hallowed Grounds. And these gentlemen here, we got Cliff MacMillan, who is the acquisitions and DVD producer at Scream Factory. And marketing director at Scream Factory, Mr. Jeff Nelson. You guys are literally looking at the horror division of Shout Factory right here. These are the guys you need to be kissing the asses of to get the titles you want and thanking like I do on a daily basis because they are just as geeky as me. And they're supplying,
I don't know about that. But,
oh, that's true. But they're supplying our geek nerd urges and needs. So anyway, this is year one for Scream Factory, and how does it feel? I mean, you guys have come out the gate, guns blazing.
I don't know, about a year ago, if I were to say that we were going to be at a Comic-Con panel, it's amazing. You guys have really been very supportive. We really appreciate it. It makes our job easier, and it's not a hard job. I mean, it's not an easy job, let me tell you that. Yes.
I was going to say, what?
I wish it was easy.
Yeah, exactly. To think that, when we launched May last year and we came out guns blaring with like 9 good titles and everything, and to think that this year we're going to round up with about, 25, 30, 35 by the end of the year, and we're really cranking them out, and it's surreal. We're fans of this stuff just like you guys, so, when we're working on this or we're looking at the talent and, putting it all together, and we're getting that final product, we're always like, oh my God, we pulled this off. I can't believe it.
I mean, it's been a dream to put out some of these titles. I mean, I was fans of these films and saw them in the theaters originally, and to be able to work on them and work with people like Don Coscarelli on Phantasm 2 was just amazing. He's such a great guy and made himself so available to us, and it's really great when you have somebody that can come on board with you and is happy to see you do a great version of their movie, and they're so appreciative of somebody who wants to treat the film right, because the studio in many cases didn't. So and he'd been wanting a special edition for so long, so it was great to do that and to be a part of it for sure.
Yeah, some of you know this because I've said it on several interviews, but The Fog is my all-time favorite film. It's not all-time favorite horror film, it's all-time favorite film. And to have seen this movie hundreds of times, I will admit, so that's the geek in me, and to be able to say that 10, I watched this film and watched it hundreds of times, and I'm now in my early 40s and I'm working on this, is a little on the surreal, full circle kind of side. I don't know quite where I go from here, but I'm sure we'll find some other horror stuff too, but it's good, it's great.
Now, Shout Factory's been around a long time, well-established company. How did Scream Factory come about?
Well, we had done a deal with Roger Corman for a selection of 60 films from his library, and when we got to the end of that, and we were looking for more content, and we had a deal with Universal for years on the television side, putting out things like Simon and Simon and Leave It to Beaver. And we just asked them, is there any way you'd license us some films? And they said, well, we really don't do that. We've only licensed to Criterion. So, give us a list. So, of course, automatically on my list was Phantasm 2 and They Live, and it took over a year to do that deal, and that was basically the start of Scream Factory, because we felt, we should put a brand on these titles, and we had Terror Train left over from a deal we did with Fox. So that made up our first 9 titles, and then I had been chasing MGM for trying to license titles from their library when I was at a previous company, so that became available to us, and they made this great list available to us, and we picked all the titles we wanted and then asked for ones that weren't on the list, like The Fog and Night of the Comet and titles like that. So, that's really how Scream Factory was born. We just keep trying to feed the beast and put more titles out.
Yeah, we... the name Scream Factory, Shout Factory just sort of made some sort of sense there. And the higher-ups that may not understand this content as much as Cliff and I, they sort of got it and understood it, and they've been very supportive. And, from a marketing perspective, we wanted to brand these because, when you're putting a big title like The Fog or The Howling in front of your face, we all know what those titles are, but you may not know what a Deadly Blessing or a Prison is. And so when you're putting them all in one brand, it gives attention to some of the ones that you may have missed that are still cult favorites, and top of the ones that are, bigger ones. And we thought that there was advantage there. We've seen a lot of advantage just from advertising and PR. We wanted to do the collectible covers, the newly designed artwork that, sometimes we get a little criticism for, but for most part, most people love. We know that you guys enjoy, because we enjoy them too, the original theatrical key art that we put on the reverse side. That is something that we get, if we grew up and we saw this movie in the theater or rented it on the shelf. There's visuals that you remember, like The Fog. You remember Jamie Lee Curtis bolted up against the door, and that's that image, and so you want to have it on your packaging. So we try to keep it pure, we try to keep it as real as it can be. Like I said, we're fans at heart.
We're making it for the fan in us, so.
Yeah, which is the fan in you.
Right on. Well, I know the answer to this one for Jeff. What is the funnest title to work on so far? You've already given that one away. You're a big Fog nerd.
Well, yes, I'm a big Fog nerd, and that would be one of them. But boy, I gave Cliff a hard time with Deadly Blessing. Boy, I was excited to get that one out. It's a Wes Craven film for those of you who don't know it. 1981, Sharon Stone, a bunch of religious people. It's kind of nuts, but it had never been on DVD or Blu-ray before, and I was just extra excited it was finally happening. I kind of like it, and so I was sort of on Cliff and his special features team. I'm getting some interviews and people, and probably much to their chagrin.
How about you, Cliff? Favorite or funnest to work on so far?
It's probably Phantasm 2, but also it was very cool to actually do, sit in and supervise the new transfer for The Fog with Dean Cundy, and just talking to him about his career and the other titles he's worked, on. So that was a great experience, man.
What about most challenging for you both?
Oh boy.
That's the entire Roger Corman collection.
No, that's not Scream.
One big challenge.
Well,
it's really, I sat on a panel yesterday with a bunch of people that do, new titles like Prometheus and so forth. And I think, it must be so great to actually be able to go on the set and interview all these people and shoot, behind the scenes footage. For all these older films, we have to go out and try and find all these people and get them to sit down and do a new interview. And it's very challenging sometimes. A lot of these people have left the business, like in Swamp Thing, the kid from the film. I mean, I don't know how we found him because Adrienne.
Yeah.
Adrienne found him on Facebook. So Facebook is
He's on Facebook.
Facebook is a great tool for
Yes,
this.
it is.
Because it's really hard to find some of these people that have just completely faded away, and you can't find them. So
Well,
that's really the challenge.
Sean, back to you, since you've done about, 4 episodes for us, Horror Hallowed Grounds?
Five.
Five and counting.
5 have in the can. but
Right.
One, yeah.
Out of the 4, Halloween 2, 3, The Fog, and The Howling, on their episodes, what would you say was the funnest
And most challenging.
and most challenging?
Let's see. Most challenging was definitely The Howling. Actually, Buzz Wallach and Andrew Cash are sitting back there. They're the other part of Horror's Hallowed Grounds, and they do a lot of the supplements for Scream Factory. Those guys bust their asses constantly. The Howling, we had a lot of hurdles, let's just say.
Yes.
Maybe some laws were broken, but I can't, want to admit to that. The funnest would be Halloween 3 for sure. I mean, to be able to, I love Halloween 3. Look, Cliff's wearing the shirt. Come on.
Yeah.
To be able to go back to the town, which is Santa Mira, to go to that town with Tommy Lee Wallace, writer and director, and just walk around with him and be a total nerd is like, come on, it's like you got your nerd boner all day long on that one. So sorry. Boner,
Boy, you got really rattled by that, didn't you?
Boner's okay to use.
Okay. It says here we have to make sure that there might be people
Please be
under
aware,
18
many
in
of
the
our
audience.
members of the audience may be under 18 years of age. So, are there any under 18 in here? Any? Huh?
Come on, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Boner means fun.
Okay.
So, let's see.
I'm glad I didn't say that.
So, guys, back to you. So, what was? What would you say has been the coolest or greatest talent that you've been able to work with on these on these things?
Yeah.
What star have you had the most fun with, hanging out with, working with?
Well, we saw her briefly, but I would say Jamie Lee Curtis getting that interview on the new Fog Blu-ray was a unbelievable feat. She has never talked really about that early Scream Queen period in her life on any sort of DVD disc at all, let alone talking about, not just The Fog, but Terror Train and Halloween 2 and Road Games even and stuff like that. And the fact that we were able to get her and she sat down and had a very candid interview with us, it's amazing. We've lucked out, although...
that was all because
God,
of this
yeah,
guy,
well,
right?
How did
Clark,
you get
Sean
her?
Clark helped us
How
on
did
that.
you do? No.
Yeah, but I mean, we've had some really great talent. Wes Craven, very supportive. John Carpenter, very supportive. Adrienne Barbeau, who you'll see later, of course, has done some great interviews for us. Even some smaller ones. Diane Franklin, who was in Amityville 2 and Terror Vision. So we've had some good stuff. Yeah, we know you guys are waiting for title announcements and some sneak peeks, so we want to show you that. We have some sneak peeks from some extras that we have for Day of the Dead and upcoming Prince of Darkness. The first one, which is a minute, is a new interview with George A. Romero. And the second one is a sneak peek of a new interview that we have with Alice Cooper himself. You can't really beat that.
Get there in my head and to come up with this whole idea of, people not getting along and, the military being the crazy one.
Sit down or so help me God, I'll have you shot.
What?
And that's what was happening to us, to people in the world today. That's what we were doing. And it came out of what I was perceiving at the time as a disintegration of values of trust. And that's really what this film is about, the loss of community. Because even though you've got all these factions, even in a small group of people, they can't pull it together. They can't work together.
I said shut up!
It's sort of like the Congress today.
It was a guy thing to go to see the horror movies and sit there and watch the whole thing, The House of Wax, you know, things like that. It was sort of like your passage into being one of the guys, you know. But I just loved the movies. I loved the idea that it was going to scare me, but it was going to bring me back safely, you know. I think everything changed with The Exorcist. I think when The Exorcist came out, it changed the whole game. Because you can write off The Creature from the Black Lagoon. You can write off Mike Myers. You can write off Jason Voorhees as the boogeyman, the thing that lives under your bed, the thing that's in your closet. The Exorcist didn't speak to your intellect, it spoke to your soul. There was something about the idea of a satanic possession of a little girl that made you feel extremely vulnerable, because you went, that's documented. You know, that has actually happened. Demonic possession is documented. So you went, you were vulnerable. You're not vulnerable to those other guys because they don't exist, but this does exist.
How's about that, huh? Yeah. Alice Cooper. And actually, minor announcement on my part. Just finished an episode of Horror's Hallowed Grounds for Prince of Darkness also. So very happy about that.
It's very good.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm wearing that shirt, sir, in the episode. I'm wearing that exact shirt in the episode. So good choice. So you guys have some announcements.
Yes, we know you guys came here for this. So we got more films coming. We're going to start off with some films that we are having coming out for the end of the year and into 2014. And then we have a very special title announcement afterwards from a deal that just closed about a couple hours ago. So here we go.
Seriously, down to the wire.
So in November, you're going to see a collector's edition of John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. That is getting the Scream Factory treatment. We'll be having new extras. Also in November, not as big as Assault on Precinct 13, but there was a 1990 movie called Eve of Destruction with Gregory Hines and an android going crazy, and we're putting it on Blu-ray. So there you go. Also in December, Saturn III, a post-alien clone with Kirk Douglas, Farrah Fawcett, and Harvey Keitel, and a murderous robot will be coming to Blu-ray for the first time. New extras there.
We just did a new HD transfer too, so it looks great.
That's good. Also in December, we're going to do a collector's edition of Sam Raimi's Darkman.
Yeah.
That gets for the first time. We are trying something different and unique in December. On DVD, we are going to be putting out a Scream Factory TV Terrors. And what this is we've heard a lot of fans would like to see some made-for-TV horror films on DVD or Blu-ray. We are putting out Are You in the House Alone and The Initiation of Sarah as a double feature, both from 1978. If this sells well, and we hope that it does, then we can open up the doors and start looking for some other made-for-TV films. And then in January, we will be doing a collector's edition of Paul Schrader's Cat People. Ooh, got an excited one there. We already have a whole line of extras planned and cast interviews. It's going to be really good. But a lot of these are going to pale in comparison to what we have to announce next. I'm going to let Cliff take it over from here.
Well, we bring up a special guest, Mark Miller from Seraphim Films, for a big announcement. You want to do the honors?
I leave it to you, my good man.
Well, this is sort of a holy grail, at least it is for me, and I think for Mark as well.
Yeah.
We are going to release Clive Barker's Nightbreed, the Cabal cut. And you helped put it together, right?
Yeah, it's been a process. Well, the film came out in '89, so over 25 years in the making. And, it was 5 years ago that I sent Clive a text message that said, hey, I heard there might be some missing footage. And we found it, we put it together. It's been touring the world. It's been incredible. And the deal just closed moments ago.
Literally moments ago.
Literally, these guys are going to be giving it the restoration treatment. It's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, it'll probably take a while to put out because we do need to restore all the footage that was. It really only exists in one format at the moment, so we're going to have to completely restore it and try and get it to look as close as it can to.
Might take some doing, but we're going to do it.
We're going to do
it. We're over the moon. I mean, to get a title like this, again, a holy grail title like this, it just kind of blows our mind.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys.
I'm glad you could come.
Thank you.
Say it in person.
It's a dream come true.
Yeah,
and
it
Clive
really
is over the moon, and he's going to be tweeting about it right now.
Yay! We like that.
Thank you.
Now, how is that? Nightbreed, come on.
And we were hoping to announce some more titles here, but we have a few deals that have not, finalized, so we couldn't announce the titles. But there's a lot of titles coming next year.
Yeah, the great thing, as you guys know, if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter, is you never know when those surprise announcements come out, and then you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you guys!" So we'll have plenty of those planned later on.
Well, right now, I think we need to introduce a lady who you all know from The Fog, Swamp Thing, the one and only Adrienne Barbeau. So how many picked up those titles today at the booth? Yeah. Come on, I was hoping to hear a little more than that. If you ain't got it, you better go get them. You're getting them early here. These are some great discs. So did you ever think 30 years in that you would, still be talking about these movies?
No, not at all. It never crossed my mind. 33 years ago, we didn't have, the fans may have been there. Well, the product wasn't even there, so the fans weren't there. But it's amazing to me. It's wonderful, very gratifying, but I sure never thought about it at that time. All I was concerned about was, well, the first one I did for John, of course, was The Fog. And when he gave me the script, it was 1978. It was the height of the women's movement. I had just come off of Maude, which was very politically motivated. And he wrote a horror film. It was like, I wanted the China syndrome. I wanted something about women's rights, and it was like, I didn't really get it at first, but thank God I did.
What would you say your funniest recollection of working on those films would be?
Oh, well, I'm going to give you a funny recollection of John instead, if I can, John Carpenter, only because it sort of relates to the films. It didn't happen on the set. But after we did The Fog, we bought a home in Inverness, in the area where The Fog was filmed. It was deep in the woods. It was a great house, all brick and wood and everything. And the first weekend we were there was Labor Day weekend. John was a big Jerry Lewis telethon fan. And so,
Random.
At 3 a.m, he's still sitting in the living room watching Jerry Lewis on the telethon, and I'm sound asleep in the back room, and all of a sudden, I hear this sound, and he comes crawling into the bedroom with a towel over his head, and he says, "Adrienne, there's a bat in the living room." I said, "Well, let it out." "No, there's a bat in the living room." So I had to get up and go open the doors and hope the bat would take off. So that I associate that with The Fog. In terms of funnies, I don't remember anything specifically funny about being on the sets, but except, well, it's not one of our films, but with Escape from New York, Donald Pleasance, who was just the funniest man I've ever worked with. Just had me on the floor all the time, to the point where I'd have to say, John again was directing, I'd have to say, he'd say, okay, let's go, let's start, and I'd say, wait, you gotta stop, hold the camera, because I can't get it together. He was hysterically funny. So.
Well, you just crushed everybody's image of John Carpenter, you know that, right? Scared of bats and
Scared of
loves
bats.
Jerry Lewis telephones. Okay.
Well, he had that long hair in those days. You know that's John in the fog sweeping up and asking if he can get paid. So he had the long hair. So I'm sure there was a little cause for worry on his part.
Between the two, the fog and Swamp Thing, what would you say was the toughest shoot?
No question. Swamp Thing was a bitch. it was just rough. Not simply because we were in the swamp, which, I mean, it wasn't the Okefenokee, it was a civilized swamp, but because they kept pulling the rug out from under Wes. I think he talks about it in the interview that he does on the new Blu-ray, the special material. They just kept cutting the budget. The completion guarantor, who was the guy who said how much we could spend, was an actor in the film. And if you see the film, you'll notice that none of his scenes got cut. But every day we'd show up for work, and Wes was pulling pages out because he didn't have enough money to film it. We showed up one day, the makeup trailer was missing because they hadn't paid the rent, So it was hard. Plus, it was South Carolina. It was only April, but it was hot. It was buggy. There were snakes and gators and chiggers and ticks. So it was a harder one.
Yeah.
So what would you say of all the characters you've played in horror films, what is your all-time favorite?
Shoot.
I know mine. I'm hoping you say the same.
I know what you're going to.
I get a kick out of Billy.
Yes. Billy from Creepshow, definitely.
Billy from Creepshow. I don't drink. I've never drunk. I never liked the taste of it, And when George first sent me the script, and I don't know horror films, and I don't know comic books, I read it. I mean, and John was saying, this is George Romero, you gotta do this movie, And I read the script and I thought, oh God, this is so gory and so violent and so bloody. I can't do this. And Tommy Atkins, who plays the father in the, the little interstitials in between each segment, is a dear friend, and I called Tom. Tom was already scheduled to do it. I said, Tommy, I mean, what is this? I mean, he said, no, you don't get it. This is a comic book. He's going to do it you got to do it. So I flew to Pittsburgh, having not met George prior to that, and walked into the rehearsal hall, and I said, look, I'm going to do, we're going to read the script. I said, I'm going to do it the way I think I would do it, and if it's not right, you better send me home because I'm not sure I know what I'm doing here. And I really attribute that character to George because, it's a very different, or for me it was up until that point, a very different way of acting on film. She's very big, and your instinct when you're on camera is to, and George kept saying, no, you can go bigger, and so I get a kick out of her, and I'm sort of proud of her because I didn't have much to start with.
So you've worked with three masters of horror. You've got George Romero, Wes Craven, John Carpenter.
Yep.
What could you say, like a little bit of description of the differences of working with them? What is the differences between those guys?
Interestingly enough, there wasn't. I mean, it's been so many years, but I didn't see or experience much difference. They all know what they want. They're very gentle, no screamers, you know.
That's good.
Their cast and crew love being with them, love working with them. George is a great guy. I'm sure most of you have stood in line to try and get his autograph somewhere. And you know, I mean, he's just like, you know, this old hippie jazz musician, you know. They all kept a very, I keep saying quiet set, but there was never any drama. And I trusted each one of them. And you know right away as an actor if you get somewhere whether you can trust the director or not. And what I mean by that is I trusted them to keep an eye on me, and if something wasn't working or, you know, I was going to be embarrassed when I saw it on the screen, they would catch it and guide me in a different direction. So I really, John smoked. I don't remember if George did either. I suppose George did too, and maybe Wes did. He still does, you know. But John, when we first started together, I don't know if that's changed in the intervening years, but John was not big on ad-libbing. You said what was in the script, and, you know. I think maybe Harry Dean may have changed some stuff in Escape, but I do remember that. It was sort of, you know, stay with the words. And John didn't like people coming to dailies. I seem to remember that. The work on Swamp Thing was so demanding, and we worked such long hours that I never went to dailies. So, and I don't remember about George. I just remember having a good time. And
Well, you worked with George twice, on Two Evil Eyes as well.
Yes,
right?
and I'd work with him. He knows I'd work with him anytime, anywhere. I just love him. I love him as a person and as a director. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to open it up to questions. We have a mic up here. If you guys would like to get in line and ask anybody here on the panel any questions.
Oh boy. Here we go.
This is where it's going to get ugly for you two. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'll be really quick. I think I already kind of figured out the deal with the first Halloween. I guess Anchor Bay's not giving that up. I saw the advertisement in the book. But two other titles. I believe you guys are working on Dark Angel or I Come in Peace with Dolph Lundgren. And I just want to know how close you are to that. And since Adrienne's up there, what is the chance of getting the Cannonball Run?
I'm sorry, what was the question about Dark Angel again?
I Come in Peace. I just want to know how close you guys are to finishing it, or is it out already?
Oh, we're finished. It's
cool.
It's done.
Yeah, it's done. It's coming out on August 27th. Yes, August 27th.
Wow.
Cool, great.
Yes.
And Cannonball Run?
We got a new interview with the director and Dolph Lundgren and Brian Benben as well.
Cannonball Run, we'll take note. It's a good one.
I think that's Warner Brothers, though.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Warner Brothers. We can't
Warner
get it
Brothers
from
won't
them.
license us any movies. So.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, my request for a title, Hell Night from 1981, starring Linda Blair.
We love it.
Yeah.
We love it, and we definitely see requests for it.
If you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
I think somebody else has the rights at the moment, yeah.
But
What
we
about
do
Night
love
of
it.
the Creeps? Have you
Yeah,
Night
Sony.
of the Creeps has
Sony
it from
has
Sony,
it, yeah.
and they put out a special edition about a couple of years ago.
And
We'd love
I'm-
to do it better.
I was just going to say, I was pushing for Hell Night too, and I just talked to Peter Barton a week ago who told me he just inherited the mansion from the film.
Yeah.
And
Saw
they
that on
leveled it. And I was like, no! Because I was going to say, hey, you inherited it. Hey, let's come by, let's do an episode. What? So, yeah, that ain't happening, unfortunately. But I still wanted to see it on Blu-ray.
I know.
So.
We too.
Next,
Me
sir.
too.
Adrienne, you look great.
thank
Carnival was terrific. I know a lot of people don't rate it, the HBO show that was a few years old.
Oh, it was my
Love to
favorite.
see it on Blu-ray. And the Blu-ray I'd like to see you guys dig up, even though you just squashed it with the Warner Brothers, and is Fire Walk With Me in the deleted scenes. If at all. Some kind of,
Yeah, I think they're working on that, though. I think that's coming out, yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
First thing I want to say is you guys probably have a lot of people's dream jobs in here, and I'm glad that you guys are true fans. Second thing is some of these films are really like hard to get decent prints out of. I mean, how do you guys track them down, and what does it take to get these things like viewable, in an HD format?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. Sometimes we've had films come to us from independent producers and they don't know where the elements are. So sometimes we just start calling places like Technicolor and trying to see if the film is still in storage. And I did, when I was at the last company I worked at, we did Savage Streets with Linda Blair, and we were lucky that the print was still in existence. It was still a Technicolor, but nobody had ever paid the bill. So we had to pay the bill to get the film out of storage, so... Yeah, I mean, with the deal we did with MGM or the major studios, they all have everything there, and it's still in good shape. But the Roger Corman collection was a nightmare. There was just nothing left. It was all gone. It's been thrown away. It's really sad. I think a lot of people didn't think about the future and what would come after television, and they just chucked stuff. It's very sad.
If I remember correctly, the They Live Blu-ray didn't have any scene selections. Was that John Carpenter's call or a technical limitation, or?
No, there are some of the early titles don't have scene selections, but we've rectified that, and so now the titles all do have that. But
and do you have? Is the Night of the Comet coming out? You guys have that?
Yes.
Yeah. What? Can you give us a hint on what's in store with that?
No, right now we're contacting everybody and just seeing who would be willing to be on the disc. So yeah, we just started production on it. So.
Yeah, it's scheduled for November.
You guys have these movies down at your booth?
We do, but I believe that the Fog Blu-ray is about, when we went down there earlier today, was 3 away from selling out. So
go grab it.
It's good.
I just want to say you guys are really awesome, and I appreciate everything you guys have done
you.
For lesser known movies all the way up to big hits. But one thing I was wondering is, how do you go about picking artists for the alternate covers, and what's the whole process like? And do you guys give creative direction and just?
Yeah. I mean, Cliff and I are fans of these films, as you guys know, and so when we do hire the artists, we get to see their style and we sort of see their track record a little bit. When we get the films, we know what we would ideally like to see on a newly designed art. For instance, on The Fog, it was very important for us to put Adrienne Barbeau in the front. I mean, just that's what it is. So we do give that direction to the artist, and then the artist will come back, and I would say 9 times out of 10, we're very good.
Yeah, I mean, it was very weird that the Fog poster, had Jamie Lee Curtis on it when she was hardly in the movie.
We tried to rectify that.
Thank you. You'll notice I asked for a copy so I can take it and replace the one that I've
There you go. Yes.
I was going to ask you guys, how do you feel about Mind Warp with Bruce Campbell from 1990?
Yeah, Sony licensed it to Twilight Time.
They did? So
yeah, it is coming out, yeah. I know.
Just not for us.
Kind of a two-part question. Well, with all respect to the excellent transfers that Criterion does, I find their extras to be pretty dull and basically a guy talking in front of a camera and that's it. How important is it in your extras to actually reflect the attitude of the film in the interview style and the cutting? And my second question is, when you and Arrow put out Life Force on opposite sides of the pond, do you guys ever compete for who can do what in terms of extras or who you can interview?
Oh, good Lord, Cliff.
Was that second question about Arrow?
About Arrow Video, yes.
No, I mean, it's, we are in some cases going after the same people, and in some of our deals we have to turn over our extras to others. So, the Arrow disc for Life Force is going to have all our extras on it. So, but I wouldn't say we compete for it.
I will say to your first question, one of the guys who does a lot of our special features, Michael Felsher from Red Shirt Pictures, he's also a fan of these films as well. And so you'll notice a lot of our extras, there's a music and a tone and an attitude that tries to fit very closely to that experience of a collector picking up this movie and wanting it to feel like you're watching a Halloween 3 documentary or something like that. So we definitely are conscious about it.
Guys, first of all, Fog artwork, fantastic.
Yay.
Absolutely love it. If only that was the original one sheet, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And so cool that you're really into that movie because it's an absolute favorite of mine.
Awesome.
Absolutely adore it.
If you do get to do TV work, shout out for Trilogy of Terror. Would love to see that.
Yeah, that is a good
But curious for you guys, what are the dream movies that you got? Obviously, you've done The Fog, but
Yes.
on the stuff that you don't have right now that maybe you're trying to get, I mean, I'm not asking you to let any cats out of the bag on stuff you're working on, but maybe stuff that, some point in the future you'd love to get hold of, really interested in hearing on what those are. Those are, maybe they're impossible to get or impossible to track down.
What are your dream titles, guys? Just one each. Pick one.
I guess it would be Suspiria for me. It's one of my favorites. And Phantom of the Paradise.
I said one.
I couldn't pick just one.
Typical horror fan. Greedy.
It's hard. I mean, letting the fog out of the bag is sort of whatever. But you know what? If we could have got our hands on it, I'd love to put Alligator on Blu-ray. Alligator is a great movie.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'd vote Phantom of Paradise. Wow, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one I've been trying to get for a while. For a
real
couple
quick,
years, actually.
Adrienne, is there a title of yours that's never seen the light of day on DVD or Blu-ray?
Oh, I hope
that you'd
so.
like, that you'd like that you'd like to see come out?
No.
All the ones you want out are out there. Okay.
Actually, we did talk about The Convent.
Oh,
Mike
The Convent,
Mendez is
yes.
The Convent, which
Mike
I just
Mendez's
think is,
film?
It's just funny, I think it's funny. But there are a lot that should remain nameless.
Yes, actually, I just wanted to ask Adrienne, you had talked about the difference in the directors you work with. Who your favorite co-star in these kinds of films was to work with?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I love Tommy Atkins, although we've done, I think, 4 films together. We've never had a scene, and we've never had a scene together. I love Kurt. Kurt was wonderful. I have to answer it the other way. In my entire career, and I've been doing this since 1965, I can only think of maybe 3 people, and they were not well, I was going to say not one of them was a film actor, but that's not necessarily true, that I wouldn't want to work with again. I've been very fortunate. I've worked with really wonderful people.
Are you going to tell us
I
who those
love
are?
Tim DeKay from Carnival. I loved working with Tim. And Nick Stahl, who was, he was a wonderful actor. Enough said. But I have another. I have an idea.
Another 3 people.
When we leave, I have an idea for the television things. John's, of course, it was Warner Brothers. I think someone's watching me, right?
Yeah, they put it out.
There's some great, I'm just going to say, there are some great, as you guys know, made-for-TV movies out there from the 70s and 80s. If this volume sells well, it really does give us the ammunition to go after some other ones. So be on the lookout for that and support it.
Adrienne, what are you currently working on? What's going on with you now? I know you got all kinds of irons in the fire right now.
What most people don't know is I've sort of gotten hooked into the gaming department, and if any of you play Halo 4, I'm Dr. Tilson. And God of War, I think I was Hera. And but next week I'll be working on Sons of Anarchy
Nice, Sons of Anarchy.
in a role that's going to make Billy look like Doris Day. I think. I've only read 2 scenes. And it's been about 8 years ago I started writing. It was it's a whole other story, but my first book was a memoir in which I tell a lot of stories about John and The Fog and Swamp Thing and Cannonball Run and all of those things. And that led to my starting a vampire series about a scream queen who is in reality a 450-year-old Armenian vampire and the leader of the Vampires of Hollywood, in which Orson Welles is a vampire and Mary Pickford and Rudy Valentino. And the second book in the series was just released as an ebook on Amazon for Kindle or iPad or whatever. That's called Love Bites. And I'm just heading off to New Orleans in 2 weeks to start plotting out the third one. you know, so.
Nice. So
But
you've
the
been
next thing you can see is Sons of Anarchy, whenever that comes up.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of voice work, like for animated characters and
Yeah.
everything. Speaking of voice work, I mean, I think everybody in here would appreciate just a little Stevie Wayne. The sultry sounds of KAB.
This is Stevie Wayne, your nightlight. Coming from you, let's see, KAB, Antonio Bay. I can't remember some of the lines.
Jeff knows them.
I actually know them. Ahoy, mateys. This is KB, Antonio Bay, California. Stevie Wayne here, beaming a signal across the sea to the men at the seagrass. 50 miles out. I can't do this.
Well, where were you when they were doing the sequel?
There's no fog
Wow,
bank
if
out
my
there.
mom could only see me now.
You know, I'll give you a little piece of trivia about the fog. I don't think anybody would know. Of the three fishermen, the boy named Jim Canning, the actor Jim Canning, who was the real slender, the younger fisherman, Jim and I were in the original Broadway production of Grease together. Jim played Duty and sang Magic Changes. And then he shows up. Well, actually, I think he did Elvis for John, and that's how, you know, and then he shows up. So it's just a little piece of trivia that none of you will have known, but he was the original Duty in the first Broadway production of Grease.
You had to know that, right, Jeff? Come on.
I actually didn't.
You can hear
Oh,
him.
you can call yourself a fog fan.
That was a new one on me.
You can
Well,
hear him
guys,
singing.
I think we are at our time here. So remember, everybody, come by the Shout Factory booth tomorrow. They've got Incredible Melting Man, Swamp Thing, a couple copies of The Fog maybe still for sale, and get the free button pack they're giving out.
Cliff and I will be working the booth tomorrow morning. If you have any more questions, I'll actually be working the booth on Sunday morning. We totally would love to hear from you. And honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we really genuinely, we are kind of bowled over by your support, and we hope that continues.
And we were worried that this room wasn't going to fill up, and this is awesome.
Like,
Thanks,
oh
guys,
my
for the
God,
support.
Thank you.
Wait, we got one little something here.
I just wanted to give a shout out, no pun intended, to all the people that were instrumental in helping get the Cabal cut made. Thank you to Russell Charrington. Thank you to Clive Barker, Phil and Sarah Stokes, Michael Plummedes, Ryan Danhauser, Jose Leitao, and the whole Occupy Midian movement. We couldn't have done it without them.
Yay.
So thanks, everyone. I want to get a shot of you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Let's a big hand for them. Come on, let's hear it. Shout Factory, Scream Factory, Adrienne Barbeau. Oh my God, this is a keeper. This is a keeper right here.